Joining us now, you can catch him on the Tape Don't Lie podcast and YouTube page. Some of the best tape guys in all of Raider creatordom. BD Williams, BD the Big Deal Williams. We were trying to guess what BD stood for. I went big deal. Soda went a little bit more raunchy with it, so we were wondering where it went.
It's actually funny. I started, when I was doing content creation for around Raiders, I started writing at Silver and Black Pride. Maybe I think it was like 4 years ago, and then when I went to go put in my name, it was already taken, and so I just used my first and second initials, or my first initial, and my middle name initial. And so it's been just BD Williams ever since. So that's how Raider Nation knows me. I'm fine with that.
It's a little bit of a life hack because, so my full name is Randall John Clifford II. So my parents just call me RJ, so that's not confusing with my dad. So that's the only name I've known my whole life. Like if you said, "Hey, Randall," I wouldn't even turn around, right? But people remember you if you have initials as your nickname more, which is so it's a nice little life hack. It's a blessing and a curse because I'm terrible with names, and everyone remembers my name because it's just 2 letters, RJ. Like, oh, hey, RJ, what's going on? I'm like,
yeah.
Hey, man, what's going on? Nice to see you again, dude. I'm like, damn it. Could you forget my name too?
Yeah, we got I have almost 200 members at my gym, at the fight gym where I coach and where I manage. And it's like, there's no way. I can't keep them all straight.
You got to nickname all of them.
Well, what's up, dude?
Right. Yeah. Only way.
What's up, G? I always say but I have to greet everybody like that, even if I know your name.
The best though is when you have like a years-long relationship with someone, and you guys are mad cool, but you don't know each other's names. Yeah, that's the best. It's
like someone you work with. They're like in a different department, but you see them twice a day. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
I have
to take your number down. You're like, okay, shit, what's up? And you're just like, guy from 3rd floor. Like, fuck. Remember
I just have the members check in. I'm like, hey, check in for me real quick. All right, cool. And they type their name, and I'm like, all right, sweet.
My wife knows whenever we go to like a work event, she knows to say, oh, hi, I'm Vicky. So they have to introduce themselves instead of waiting for me because she knows I'm not going to remember their names. So she just knows she's been trained with enough reps. You know what I'm saying? Like she's been on that jugs machine enough times where she knows
drillers make killers.
I gotta introduce it because I'm going to embarrass old RJ over here with his numbnuts brain. Got hit in the head too much in his fighting years. All right, Raiders 7-7. We got here weird, right? I think there's been so much disappointment this season for the Raiders because it started off so hot, right? 3-0, and Carr's got the second most passing yards in football, and all these good things. But then I have to go to the laundry list of things that they've been hit with. I mean, how are you on the Raiders season right now? Like December 22nd, 2021 at 7-7.
I'm honestly surprised that they're 7-7, to be honest with you. The Dallas one, they pulled that one out.
Yeah.
At the very end there. I think that it's pretty impressive that they don't have technically a losing record, right, at this point in the season, but we'll see how they end up finishing. But yeah, it's been tumultuous. It's been a lot. I think it's been clear, Rich Bisaccia maybe in over his head as far as being a head coach. The offensive coordinator, defensive coordinators are just kind of in a groove, and a very predictable grooves, each of them. And so the play calling on both sides of the football has been, stagnant. It's been stale. So honestly surprising that they're 7-7 at this point. I still wouldn't if they barely beat a Nick Mullins led Cleveland team. I wouldn't I know that there are some fans who are like, hey, we're mathematically still in it. Like anything could happen. But you realize the 7th seed is going to play the Patriots, or they're going to play the Chiefs. That's an automatic out. Right. So, I mean, I just don't understand why people are maybe wanting to see the Raiders make the playoffs when it could mean literally 10 draft spots. So I don't know what's more important, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think there's logic to both sides. I mean, the experience of taking a young team to the playoffs, and what's that experience like, right? I think there is value to that. Is it 10 spots of a draft value? Is it worth that much? I don't know.
It depends. If the plan, Mark Davis is going to be holding the keys to this. If he's like, hey, I really want Derek Carr to be a part of Las Vegas Raiders going forward, then yeah, Derek Carr needs playoff experience, right? Like he's never played in a playoff game, right? But if the idea is just to blow everything up and bring someone in and just them decide if they want to keep Derek Carr or not, Mark Davis, and it seems like getting better draft capital when this season has gone so terribly wrong for the Raiders makes more sense at this point.
Yeah, that's kind of what Soto and I have been debating this for a while. It's like, what does a blow up of this roster really look like? Because like when I think blowing up a roster, that to me, that's because you always want to improve, right? You want to get rid of the shitty players and get good ones. You want to get rid of the expensive bad players and get cheap new ones. Like everyone wants to. The guy who wins the team who wins the Super Bowl wants to do that, right? When I think blow up, I think get rid of like the good players that are a little older now and replace them with younger guys. Try to get draft picks and just kind of refresh, right? Reload. We don't have any older players that we want to keep. Like all of our decent players are all like on rookie contracts or just signed their first contract.
1 year deals.
1 year deals. Like all of the only guys that are expensive and older are guys we want to get rid of anyway. Like Corey Littleton, Nick Witkowski. Like we don't want to keep these guys. There's literally only one guy on the whole roster, 30 and above, that we'd want to keep. And that's Derek Carr. Obvious, giant what if, right? Because changing quarterback is blowing up a roster, but like,
and that's what I meant. Like, it doesn't have to mean blowing up the roster as far as getting rid of everybody. It's just when you change your quarterback, you change the direction that you're headed, and that's how I felt about blowing up the roster. If you were to do that, I mean, no one's going to take Littleton's $15 million contract next year, which is that's what he's owed because he restructured this year, and a rookie beat him out, basically. A rookie's making him look terrible. Yeah. He had one tackle last game, and they gave him a pass defense when Ngakoue stepped out of bounds. Technically, it's a pass defense. That's all he had. And so it is Derek Carr. It starts and ends with Derek Carr. And again, it's the philosophy of whoever's there. If Mark Davis is smart and hires a team president to kind of be a little bit more of a calming influence and more of a steadying influence on the franchise, or he wants to give the head coach a bunch of power again, who knows? But it's going to be their decision to make going forward. But I still think if you move on from Derek Carr, even if he is the only player that you change from, there's always going to be some turnover. But if he's the biggest starter or player on this team now that you change, that still is a blow up because it's your starting quarterback for 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, right. Blowing up the roster means the quarterback changes. It might just be the quarterback, but it's still right. Like you're saying, like Juan's saying, if your quarterback changes, everything changes within, your team and the direction of your team. Right. But I don't know. Obviously we're prognosticating, we're getting, far ahead of ourselves. We'll see what the Raiders decide to do as far as next year. If Derek Carr is the quarterback, that is a topic that Raider Nation loves to debate. I remember at some point in the springtime, opening up Twitter and seeing Derek Carr trending. I'm like, how? Why? How is this? People love to talk about Derek Carr. It's, so at some point, people, just relax a little bit.
He's the most polarizing guy in football, right? It's so weird. He's like the biggest family man. Like he might be a preacher when he retires, and yet he's like the most polarizing guy in all of the NFL. It's wild. Coaching staff wise, I think clearly the coaching staff is going to get blown up. How big of a blow up do you think that is? Who of the coordinators and who of the primary position players would you like to see kept around? Because obviously, a new head coach can just completely clean house. A new team president or GM can completely clean house. But without knowing who the head coach may be, I'm going to assume it's going to be a new one. Is there anyone you're like, I wish they keep, A, B, and C?
Yeah, well, usually that comes down to coordinators, honestly. Like, if a coordinator sticks around, they'll keep guys on his staff. But if that coordinator goes, I think it's relatively rare to see, like, too many position coaches stick around, especially in the case of, like, Gus Bradley with, like, Ron Miles is his guy. That's his guy. Like, that's a package deal almost, right? Wherever Gus Bradley goes, Ron Miles probably will end up going, right? And I really like the work that Ron Miles has done so far this year. At the same time, though, I personally am in the camp that I just want to see a completely different coaching staff next year. I think, like I talked about in the beginning, I think the play calling is very stale. I think it's very predictable. I think the Raiders easily so far through my charting run this simplest defense across the entire NFL. Like it's like 90. Some games are like 91% of the play calls are just like the same cover 3 call. It's like they're not. Gus Bradley does not call defense. He just preaches like assignment football, right? And so there's not a lot of creativity there. I think that there are coaches that do as good of a job as Gus Bradley does with the finer details of the game, while also having a much more complex and modern NFL scheme. So that's, my vote would definitely be to hire some young blood, like a fresh new, coaching staff. But we have seen Gus Bradley. Okay, he got hired as the Seahawks defensive coordinator when Jim Mora was the head coach. And when Jim Mora was fired, Pete Carroll kept him, which is very, very rare. So Gus Bradley has survived that before, so we'll see.
Well, also Pete Carroll was a defensive coach himself. So it's, their scheme is similar in a way to what he ran at SC. So, I mean, I can see that kind of being a good fit for him. Especially when you've been out of the NFL for several years and you have a guy who's run a similar system that you used to run, and he's already on the staff. He knows the players.
This defense is a weird thing to get my head around because it's been like atrocious for 20 years. It's been a bottom 3 defense 3 of the last 4 seasons, right? Like the best defense Derek Carr's ever had was 20th, right? It's been awful, like historically bad. And so that's why I'm so kind of on the fence with Gus Bradley and what he's doing this season, because it's still not a good defense.
They're still bottom 4. What do you want?
It's still not. I mean, by some metrics, right? Like it's not doing good by any
points
means.
Per game. I mean, what do you want to do?
But like think of like how many like guys have like revitalized their career in this system. How many guys have been like playing well in this system? Like, we got 2 Pro Bowlers out of it. Like it's kind of this weird like. You can't turn a steam engine, like you can't have it do a U-turn right away, right? So it's like, if we're expecting this Raiders defense to be good or even average like that, like in a season with one new coach, I think that's expecting way too much with how long this defense has been terrible. Like, where are you on that, BD?
Yeah, no, I think that Gus Bradley, like the things that he's focused on, okay? He focuses on guys being able to play fast, like maintaining zone integrity, getting to your landmark, breaking on the football, making open field tackles, the things that he preaches, like the defense does. Okay. But at the same time, his whole thing is making it as simple as possible because he doesn't want like a bunch of mental processing out there. He just wants guys sprinting to the football. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I just think when you saw what Patrick Mahomes was able to do to the defense. Okay. The book is out. It's known how to beat this scheme, and it just comes to who's going to out execute who. Whereas if you have a scheme where you're mixing things up and you're maybe you have 3 deep safeties, maybe you're showing too high, maybe you're spinning, you're doing all this different disguising and changing things post snap. Okay, when the bullets are flying and the quarterback has to figure it out, you can now maybe get some interceptions. You can win against teams that might be more talented than you, because you're doing these looks. Whereas the Raiders right now, they're not going to beat anyone more talented than them, because it just comes down to an execution game. They're literally running the same cover 3, like it's like 75% of the time throughout the season. So there's no guessing game going on. It's just coming down to, are they going to make this open field tackle in the flat, or are they going to miss that tackle and the guy's going to get 10 yards? So that's what it comes down to. And I think that it's kind of tired. It's kind of stale. I give credit where credit is due, but I don't see this like defense ever being like a top 10 unit with this scheme. That's my point.
Well, yeah, I said it the last episode. The modern NFL is players over plays, right? You have to scheme to get the player in the right position and get him the ball in the right position, and it just seems like we're plays over players. Here's our scheme. Run this. Keep running our scheme over and over again. And when you run into like an Andy Reid, who's a genius offensively, and he figures out who our worst pass coverage guy is and who he's covering. Okay, send him deep every time. Whoever Abrams is covering, just send him deep every time, and we'll just throw the ball deep. And that's what happened against the Chiefs the first time, and it was ugly, man. It was like 9 for 9. He gave up nine catches on 9 targets for like 120 something yards and 2 touchdowns. A backup, like a third string running back, caught a deep pass on him. It's like, it's all scheme, man.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you would see, I would say, a more creative coordinator not put Abram in those situations, like you're saying. Okay, not put Denzel Perryman in some of the situations that he's been in coverage. Sometimes like solo, man-to-man on a tight end across the middle, getting posterized or whatever. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I understand what RJ is saying though. Tough to change directions of this steamboat. Where at this point in the season, what Gus Bradley took over and what he's accomplished definitely gets credit for it. I still don't think it's good enough now at this point in the NFL to like consistently hang your hat on that.
No, I agree.
High basement, low ceiling type of defense, right? Like it's not going to be a Paul Gunther where everyone's just kind of pointing at each other in the end zone. Were you supposed to have him? Were you supposed to have him? No, me, you.
The Spider-Man meme.
Yeah, it's not going to be that. You brought up Johnathan Abram. The only good thing about Johnathan Abram getting shoulder surgery and being out for this season, I don't have to hear Soto bitching about his coverage every single show because he was really good in run defense, right? Second most tackles on the team. How big of a knock is losing Johnathan Abram to this defense? How big of a hit is that?
I definitely think that there's some element of like attitude and intensity that now Perryman and Abram being out of the lineup, we're going to see who on that second level is going to bring that. Hobbs as well, missing. Like those guys bring the juice, right? So hopefully whoever comes in, I think I'm leaning towards Teamer being that guy, being his backup. Hopefully he brings the juice as well. He's like kind of famous on Twitter for getting into like starting these like fights during the Rams practice. Everyone was like, oh, that was Roderick Teamer. The reason why the Rams practice got canceled or whatever is because he was like fighting people. So hopefully he brings like just a fire intensity within the rules and doesn't get penalized, obviously, but just brings that intensity there. But you can't get really much worse than Abram was in coverage, right? Over like the last like 4 or 5 weeks. So it can't be much worse. Obviously Abram against the run, fantastic. And he was probably having his best game against the run. Maybe his best game of his career against the run against Cleveland before he got hurt, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, he saw that like offensive lineman flash, and he's like, okay, I know what this is. I'm getting it. Couple tackles for loss. Yeah, and Teamer, man, he got into a fight at a Cowboys game, right? Is he one that got into a fight against the Cowboys?
Oh, I think he might have. Yeah.
Jeez, he's a scrapper.
Man. If there was like some sort of like souvenir that you can buy at the Raiders gift shop of Teamer just like picking fights with other players, like if they made an NFT of Teamer just like picking fights with Rams practice dudes, like it's a joint practice so you both get better and you just trying to like fuck dudes up, I'd buy it. That's the souvenir I want. You know what I mean? Not a game ball signed, right. I don't want like Derek Carr's game jersey. Like give me like the blood on the tape of the knuckles from Teamer like punching some random guard. You know what I mean? I want that hanging up in my wall. Maybe I'm old fashioned. What can I say? I'm a sick fuck. What do you want? So we got the Broncos coming up. Beat up at quarterback, right? Drew Lock. Nothing can turn a defense around like having Drew Lock throwing passes at you. But it is our defense, like you just mentioned, bunch of injuries. Basically all our best tacklers are all injured. What do you see this offense doing to our defense on Sunday?
Like you're saying, it's about tackling. Javonte Williams, one of the toughest tackles in football right now. He's having stellar year. He just keeps on getting better almost every week. You're going to see something from him that's really impressive. I think right now he's like one of the top rated running backs in football. Obviously Jonathan Taylor, he's like far away, past everyone else, but like that next tier, Javonte Williams definitely deserves to be in that. You got to bring it. You got to tackle as a team against this guy. He's not going to just go down with one tackler every time. So I'm a little worried because Perryman, that's our best guy when it comes to that. Abram, that was our second best guy. Hobbs, he was really good against the run. We got to see if Perryman is able to make it back. Hopefully Hobbs gets back in the lineup because you got to bring it, and those guys are good tacklers at least. So that's going to really be one of the keys to the game. Has Drew Lock played this last week? I haven't watched that tape, so I'll reserve my judgment on Drew Lock and what they do in the passing game, though. We'll see.
What do you equate our complete lack of getting interceptions to? I mean, like I was looking up like Johnathan Abram's contributions, like all these tackles, and he's like, oh, he leads the team in interceptions with 1. He's tied with like 4 other dudes. It's like, is it? And like there were certain games where it's like, which game was it? Where we got 2 interceptions, where it literally had to bounce off of Casey Hayward's arms into another DB for us to finally get an interception. Is that scheme? Is that a Gus Bradley problem? Is that young DB's problem? Is it just the style of play, bad luck? Like, what do you think it is?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's a scheme thing. It's, the Raiders, like I keep on I'm being a dead horse here. They run so much cover 3, and not just cover 3, the same exact cover 3. Everyone's in the same exact spot, that I don't think that quarterbacks really are feeling the need to like test tight windows and, try things when so much of the game plan is already predicated. Like the pre-snap look, cover 3 confirms we already know where we're going now with the football, that quarterbacks aren't having to put the ball in harm's way. And I also don't think that Gus Bradley cares. He's not. He wants the guys to drop to their spot, break on the ball, and just force teams to put together like 10, 12 play drives against you. His thing is bend, don't break. It's not, let's try to make splash plays. He's not that style of defensive coordinator. So I don't think that that's like necessarily the focus, the emphasis, like jumping in front of things. He just wants to play it safe, stay on top of everything, rally and tackle. That's not a style of defense that gets interceptions.
We also haven't been good catching the ball either. I mean, we've had a couple of guys drop balls a lot. I mean, that Trevon Merrick dropped interception at the end of the Washington football team game. That was the game sealer right there. That was tough. And it was right in his hands too. So that's I've counted quite a few that they just drop, straight up drops.
Yeah, I mean, they're look, if you're on defense, that means that you probably struggle catching the football, okay? You get paid more to catch the football, right? Everyone wants to be a wide receiver. You usually get demoted, okay? Like the guys who play wide receiver wanted to play in the NBA, and they couldn't play in the NBA, so they played wide receiver. The guys who play corner wanted to be wide receiver. They couldn't be a wide receiver, so they had to play corner. Okay, like there's a reason why you can't. You see defenders drop passes. Obviously, some defenses just have some guys that seem to be a lot better at snaring. Catching passes and stuff like that. Like look at Trayvon Diggs. Also, if you like actually go through the tape, Trayvon Diggs also gives up tons of catches and touchdowns.
Yeah.
So it's a boom or bust. And Gus Bradley is not about boom or bust. He's about safe, make them be perfect against you. Not about, let's try to make a splash play here.
Kickers wanted to be captain of the Dungeons and Dragons fan club, but they couldn't, so they had to become NFL kickers. It's like constant trickle-down effect. You know what I mean? NBA player, wide receiver, you're a DB. You eventually you get to kickers at some point down the line.
Don't knock D&D, baby.
It's like a reverse evolution, like the evolutionary thing you see with like, the monkey gets taller. It's like that opposite. Everyone just kind of trickles down, but they always find a home, which is important.
One of my buddies was like really into that kind of stuff. I don't know what it was, but they were like playing some like fantasy card type.
Was his name John Roto?
No, it wasn't me.
No? Okay.
It was a good friend of mine. I'm not saying
not you, but a friend you knew, a guy that you knew.
His name is Tim. His name is Tim Wells. Tim, love you, buddy, if you're listening.
The most made-up name I've ever heard.
His name is Tim Wells. I'll freaking show you on my IG. Anyway.
His name was Joey Jr. Shabadoo.
Joey Josephace. No, so he had a bunch of guys over like to watch the Super Bowl. And I'm like, all right, cool. I went over there, and it's like these guys are playing all this freaking crazy card game. And they had some smoking hot chicks with them. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? This has changed since I was in high school.
They were hired? I don't know.
I mean, they had money.
The question of the day.
I did not see that going that way, by the way, Juan. I didn't expect you to say that.
I didn't expect it either. I walked up and I was like, God damn. These guys are doing well for themselves.
I went to this Dungeons and Dragons club and this orgy popped off. It was crazy. I was here for a card game and this gangbang started. It was like craziest thing ever happened. Bro. Yeah. Jeez. That's a Pornhub link I've never clicked. That's for sure. So our question of the day, BD, has been, who's been the most disappointing player for you this season on the Raiders? Because there's some guys that have been bad and stayed bad. There's some guys we had huge high hopes for that kind of fell off. There's guys we had very just thought average expectations for them, and they completely sucked. I mean, it could be any of those ranges, right? It doesn't have to be a surprise number. It can be, like Soda brought up Darren Waller. We thought he was going to have another just all-pro season, and between injuries and just not having great season he hasn't really had. Is there one guy on this roster where you're like, damn, man, like this was not what I thought was going to happen?
Yeah, Josh Jacobs for me, like by a mile. We have not seen Josh Jacobs improve since his rookie year. In fact, we've seen him take steps back. Like he was such a great zone runner his rookie year. Obviously, they dismantle the offensive line. That doesn't help him out, right? He doesn't trust these guys. He, just the discipline, the efficiency that he, some of his footwork, some of the things that he's doing with his eyes can stand to improve. And we just haven't seen him take those steps. So concerned about him. Hopefully, if as long as he's a Raider, we continue to see him improve. But he is not scratching his potential. He could play a lot better than he is. He's also hurt a lot too. And then on the defense, I'll say Yannick Ngakoue is disappointing to me. I'm diving into his tape. I'm watching him very closely recently, especially after giving up, contain, and allowing Nick Mullins, to almost beat you, Yeah. Inexcusable on a 4th and 5 for that to happen. Watching his tape, I'm seeing him on the ground a lot. I could put together literally like a 15-minute montage of him just on the ground. I showed my dad. My dad was flabbergasted just now. I was like showing him all these clips I have saved on my phone. People are saying that I'm being hard on him because he has 9 sacks. I think sometimes they see the sacks and they go, oh, he's having a great year. I think that he's not. He's playing with the least effort he has ever played with in his career. This is coming from a guy I watched all 4 years of his career leading up to being with the Raiders. He has never played with this poor of effort, and he's never been on the ground as much as he is. So I am disappointed with Yannick Ngakoue right now.
He's got 25 tackles or something like that. He plays a lot of snaps for him. That little tackles. He's just not playing the run very much.
I mean, he was like the one save, and you're 100% right, BD. But I would say like the one argument was like he was signed exclusively to get the quarterback. Like that's right. Like okay, we want all our defensive ends to be able to be 5-tool players and do a lot of things, but like we knew what we were getting with him though, right?
Here's my question then: if he signed and they were like, look, your job is just to rush the passer, why did he put on 15 pounds of muscle? Right? Like that was the whole thing.
In Vegas now he's gonna have his shirt off more. Just wants to
out there, baby. It's impossible to argue with this guy because he's gonna come with
I'm not saying you're
I'm confused about that decision that he made. I don't know if that's affecting his wind or his conditioning level, but he has played with so much better effort throughout his career than he is playing with right now. I also think he's playing a lot more snaps than he's used to. And Juan's bringing up a great point to have played as much snaps as he had, to start every single game. Basically, I think there was one game that he missed, right? Yeah. To have only 15 solo tackles when you're the starting defensive end, and 9 of those are sacks, okay? Like, come on.
He's not tackling the running back at all.
I think that there's a little bit of an effort concern, and if he just needs to have his snaps cut down a little bit so he can stay fresh, Malcolm Kuntz is waiting in the wings. Let's see what we got. We only have, 3 more games here to see what Malcolm Kuntz has. Get some tape eval on him to see what he's got in the tank. Put Malcolm Kuntz in if Yannick Ngakoue is struggling to contain or to set the edge or to stay on his feet or, some of these things that I'm seeing are very concerning on his tape.
Yeah, look at Divine Diablo. When he finally got a chance to get in there, he pulled the Tom Brady. He's like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to get back out here again. I better ball out. And he's been killing it.
There's rotational guys, we got rotational guys to give him a break. If that's truly the problem, right? If it's just a snap count, like there's cheaper guys that can do it. But I'm with you 100% on Josh Jacobs. Like I've been saying since the middle of last season, like I hope we trade him next season. He's a Raider. Like he's had some good games for us. He's won us a game or two, right? But because he went to the Pro Bowl, he's going to be owed like $10 million when his extension comes up. It's like hell no, man. And I did the math, like. For people who are saying like, well, the offensive line's playing poor. It's like, okay, then why does Peyton Barber always have more yards per carry than Josh Jacobs, right? Like I did this like 3rd grade yesterday. Josh Jacobs, 1st round draft pick. He's missed 10 games in less than 3 seasons with injury, making $3.25 million. And on Monday, he had 15 carries for 52 yards, 3.5 yards per carry, right? Peyton Barber, undrafted free agent. He's only missed 1 game in his entire 6-year career. He makes $850,000. He had 5 rushes for 35 yards, 6.8 yards per carry. I mean, when you're getting better production from an undrafted free agent who's making less than $1 million, it's just like what else do you need? And you can't even say Peyton Barber is just awesome. Devontae Booker played better than Josh Jacobs did last season in yards per carry. He had like 0.7 better yards per carry.
A whole yard,
almost a whole yard than Josh Jacobs. It's like
so here's the difference, okay? And you just hit it on the head. An undrafted rookie free agent, you have to be really good at what you do. You're not going to get any chances just off of what, right? First round draft pick like Josh Jacobs, even if he has like struggles and the Raiders move on from him, another team is going to be ready to like see if he could be their starter, just like that. Guys like Booker, okay, now Barber on the Raiders. These are guys who have had to like really up their skill level just to even have a shot, and they're never going to be starters at the beginning of the year, but they seem to always be starters towards the end, or like slowly make work their way into the lineup. Is because of skill level. Sure, Josh Jacobs has maybe more talent than those guys, but their skill level is what's winning these reps and getting being able to do certain things to just grind out those tough yards, or if it's just taking 4 yards instead of losing 2, stuff like that. This the mental side of it, I think, is in progress for Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, it's so frustrating when like your third string running back, Jalen Richard, is making $3.5 million more than your starter, and you've paid Kenyon Drake $11 million for 2 years, and Peyton freaking Barber is the dude getting the best yards per carry. You're like, we had this like super expensive running back room. Our third string running back was making more than our first rounder.
And it has our only 100-yard game of the season.
And Peyton Barber comes strolling in off the scrap heap and just like, yeah, I got this. I could run no problem. I'll provide the spark. You're like, man, what do we? I think that's the most Raiders thing ever, right?
He was big in the second half, man.
Overspending on positions we don't need when there's 20 Peyton Barbers out there.
Peyton Barber was big in the second half, man. He made that clock run. He was getting first downs and he was letting that clock run. He making that clock go. So he a lot of big contributions for him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, good thing that we have Peyton Barber. I agree. Just like from a salary cap perspective, it seems very skewed for the production. But that's why. I mean, that's a Gruden thing. All these backs, paying all these backs, that's a Gruden thing. I fully expect whoever comes in next to overhaul that aspect of the roster management.
We would hope.
Yeah, just hoping. Yeah, hopefully that guy just has like a calculator. You know what I mean? Just like a really basic calculator. It's like, oh, I can get this for that. Thank you. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at BDWilliams18, contributor at SB Nation, Silverback Pride, and the co-host of the Tape Don't Lie podcast. BD, big deal, Williams. Here again. Thanks for coming on.
BD.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me. Go Raiders.
Thanks, man. Go Raiders.
Hey, Windbags, if you want Darren Waller to catch 20 touchdown passes this season, don't be afraid to click those subscribe, like, share, and comment buttons. Plus, your comment could be featured in the next What Up, Windbags?